Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be retesting Baldur's Gate 3 on the Steam Deck. So, as you guys requested from Act 3, that is very far into the game, basically on the actual Baldur's Gate, we're going to be checking out the game and how's performance. So let's get into the options right away. We go into options, show you this with a bit more clarity, otherwise it's pretty difficult. So 800p, FSR 2.2 on quality, and the preset is basically low settings with medium textures and 8x anisotropic filtering. Sharpness, I thought it was a little bit too aggressive, so I disabled it. Anti-aliasing, TAA should be good enough. I don't know why this was turned off. Ambient occlusion enabled, no depth of field, personal preference. God rays, sure, why not. Bloom enabled. Subsurface scattering also enabled. Slow hard drive mode, not necessary. We have an NVMe drive, but if you want to use an SD card, maybe enable this option. Dynamic routes on. Actually, let's disable it because in the city it can be quite a bit problematic. So after doing that, let's restart the game and get to the test. Alright, so welcome to Baldur's Gate 3 in Act 3. This city is basically, as I said at the start of the video, super demanding. This is Act 3, so it's not a coincidence. Everybody asked me in the previous video to test this area. Luckily, I have a friend that bring me a save file. I was able to actually play this. And as you can see in the city, it goes super slowly, even if I zoom in quite a bit. And a moment ago the game was super blurry, it had more visual artifacts than usual. And that's because it seems to be FSR 2.2 sometimes bugs out with the sharpness setting, so I recommend you lower the sharpness in the options menu to the absolute minimum. But even if you pan the camera out, as you can probably notice, the CPU is basically the limiting factor. That's why I disabled the crowd thing. And there is quite a bit of pop-in, but that's okay. I mean, this is one of the demanding places of the game, especially when looking into a distance. So the CPU, from the 15 watts that the Steam Deck has for the CPU and GPU to share, the CPU is taking most of it. That's why the GPU doesn't hit 1000 MHz very often, at least not in the city. You can actually force the GPU to be at 1600 MHz, like that. But the game now is CPU limited, maybe 1300, 1200, something like that. And we still have issues. It seems to be a little bit more stable, but as soon as you get CPU bound, the CPU doesn't have enough juice to actually maintain 30s. They are basically SOL. As you can see there, the drops are more noticeable because the CPU needs more frequency. So my advice is to stay out of the manual GPU clocks and all that. Just stay like it is. And probably lock it to 30 FPS, especially in an area like this. This is crazy demanding on the CPU. So luckily it's not a GPU thing, but the good thing about it being CPU limited in these locations is that the Steam Deck OLED with the faster memory will help the CPU performance quite a bit. So on the OLED I'm expecting it to be way closer to 30, considering what I said a second ago. So now let me show you handheld and the less demanding areas of the game, so you can see the difference and why the benchmarks sometimes are not super accurate on this game. Alright, so welcome back. We're now at the very beginning of the game, when you first start combat. As you can probably notice, it's way less detailed than the actual city, obviously. But there's a good amount of effects and all that. But you can see in contrast how much better it runs here in comparison to the city. The city drops into the 20s. Here we actually use the entire GPU, so the CPU is not a limiting factor. So yeah, it's actually pretty damn good on the smaller screen, especially using FSR. FSR on the raw image from the raw signal looked pretty dang soft. Here it looks completely fine. It looks almost like native resolution, I would say. It depends on how closely you look at it, let's say. But overall, it's completely fine. I'm pretty impressed. So, yeah. On earlier sections, again, the Act 3 is more than 30 hours into the game. That's why I guess most people didn't test that at the beginning. I'm certainly one of those people that never got to that area because I'm not a huge Baldur's Gate guy. I usually like more action-heavy stuff, personal preference, of course. So let me show you a little bit more ahead outside of Hell. Alright, welcome back. This is the very beginning of the game after the prologue. And I wanted to show you this because this was in my first video, this game on the Steam Deck, all the way back when it came out of early access. Let me unlock the frame rate super quick. And as you can see, performance is significantly better than in the city and in the very first location, which is not a coincidence. I mean, it's basically double the performance than in the city, which makes a huge difference. Instead of dropping into the 20s with stutters, or actually, you could say, oh man, maybe I can play at 40 FPS. Well, no. Maybe at the beginning of the game with performance FSR here. But as you can, again, probably notice, in comparison to Act 3, this is basically double the performance. Which is fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that the city has so much more detail and things going on that showing you the benchmark here, when I never actually played the game, it was my first time on it, it wasn't a good representation on what it performs like, basically. So yeah, I'm happy to rectify my my thoughts on this game. Well, the game actually, even on balanced FSR 2.2, looks great on the smaller screen. Once you have your hands on it in the native screen, it looks pretty good. But then when it comes to the city, as I showed you at the beginning, it's a completely different story. It's basically when you're moving around, it's a stutter fest. 20-something FPS with stutters. Say, the game is verified, which I find pretty interesting, because they probably played a bit through the game to see if it performed well, but Act 3, as I said before, is very far away. It's like more than 30 hours into the game, if you are going directly for main objectives. So what it says verified, I mean, most of the game should be fine. The city is the problem next to Baldur's Gate. So here you basically get double the performance. Let me show you just to close up the video what I'm talking about. Alright, so now we're back into the city. As you can see, again, many hours into the game. The GPU frequency drops significantly. The CPU usage goes very high in comparison to the start of the game. More characters on screen, lots of trees, lots of geometry. So no, lowering settings doesn't fix this. And if you're in combat, it's going to be even worse. So yeah, as long as you are not into the city, it's usually fine. This is more of the stress point of the game, to say it in some way. So my advice is to just lock it to 30. Whoops. Lock it to 30 and enjoy your time with it. And once you reach the city, maybe you have better hardware to run it on. You have cloud saves, but I wouldn't say it's 100% verified. Just due to the fact that in the city, it drops very hard. But most of the game is okay. I've been at 30s everywhere except in here. So at the start of the game it's been fine. Somewhere in the middle of the game it was also okay. But as soon as I reached the city, man. it was a mess. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. There will be a Rogue Ally video as well. Check the pinned comment. As soon as that's ready, you'll see it here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.